In the last movie, we saw how the little diamond stud on Julianne's ear was made. Well, now we're going to take that diamond and put it elsewhere in the painting. There is one scene right here where we see quite a few diamonds. Now, this is the low-res version, so you really can't tell. I happen to have open the high-res version of the Broadway area right here, where we can now zoom in and see much better clarity. There's the little diamond billboard that has all these little tiny diamonds enclosed inside these three-dimensional looking letters. I also have open that particular file, the file of that billboard. Here's the original file that was used to create that billboard. So here we can start to see where all those little diamonds are. So we're going to recreate this effect here. So in this file here, right now it's blank, I have created a path for the letter L. That's the letter that's going to contain our little diamonds. Right now, let's just create the background the way it was in that billboard. So I'm going to pick some colors here. I'm going to get a nice deep red like this, say a red like that. And for the background color, I'll just pick the same red and make it a little darker. And I'll throw a little radial gradient right into the sign like so. And we want a little more definition. We'll make that red a little darker and try that again. So we have a little more definition there. We get that feel. I'm going to give that a little texture by applying a filter of texturizer in sandstone mode just to give that a little texture. Make it big, bring that relief down, just so we have a little texture in the background. There. So on top of this, I'm now going to form my letter. So I have my path, there's the path, and I got my layers. So I'm going to create a layer on top of this, which is going to have the letter, right? So there's the letter. Now I'm going to move this path over just a little bit, just up about like that. There we go. And I'm going to get a color for that letter to have. So I'm going to get a kind of a golden tone, somewhere around this color here. And in that layer, I'm going to fill that path. So there it is. Now, this is going to have a little depth to it. So I'm going to take that path, I'm going to duplicate it, and bring it right over here to the side like that. Now that it has a little depth here, I'm going to select this point and drag that point right over to that edge and drag this point right over to this edge. So this becomes a side to my letters right there. So in a layer behind this letter, right there, I'm going to call it depth. Now we start to have a little shape to this. So I'm going to get a darker tone of that gold, and I'm going to fill that path in that layer like that. So now you see that the letter has a little dimension to it. Now I'm going to go in here and let's select this little shape right through here, right there. I got this little shape selected, so I'm going to go in here and just do a little darkening right to this edge. So I'm going to get my burn tool, and I'm just going to kind of darken that edge a little bit and darken it up there just to give it a little depth. All right, so there we have a little more dimension to this. And then I'm going to give that layer a layer style. So I go to that layer, and in the depth layer, I'll just give it a little drop shadow. Make the light come from this direction, give it a little more size, a little more distance. And there we can see that the letter is now separating from the background. Now, right here on top here, I've got that original path. It's this path right here. Let's select that path. Let's get the path set up and that outer path. I want to give this letter a little bit of a shape to it, kind of like a border. So I'm going to get another color, a lighter yellow. Let's pick this yellow and then go a little lighter than that. And in a layer on top of the letter, I'm going to call this one border. And I'm going to get a paintbrush, nice hard edge brush, which I'm going to make bigger. Now I'm kind of figuring this size based on the half of that brush tip. That's how deep my border is going to be. So just about there, maybe a little bigger. That's a good size. So I'm going to go ahead and stroke that path with that brush right there. So now that's a separate layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip that layer with the basic shape right there. So now this has to have a little depth. I have a layer style I can give to this, a little bevel and emboss. And I'm going to put that on the outside maybe, or just make this smaller and leave it the way it is, just to give it that little bit of an edge. That looks good. Now this has to have a little more depth to it. So I have the paths. So I'm going to select this path right there. I'm going to copy it. Turn off that, create a new path, and say paste, which pastes it right on top. Now I'm going to take this new one and I'm going to move it over so that it matches the back letter right there, see? So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to go in there and darken this tone back here. I'm going to go in here with a much darker version of this yellow, about like that. And I'm going to go in there and fill that area back there. So we go in here and right on top of the letter, create a new layer. And I'm going to fill that path inside of there with that. So now we got some depth to our letters. There's a hole, which is where the diamonds are going to be. So I'm going to go to the file that has the diamond, right down here. And I'm going to select that little diamond. There it is. Let's make sure we're in the right layer. Yep. So I'm going to just say copy. And go back to my file with the sign right here. And in a layer right on top, way up here, I'm going to say paste. Now it's going to automatically paste it into its own layer, but I just want to make sure that it's there. There we go. So there's my little diamond. Now I need to make this a little smaller because I'm going to have 2 rows of diamonds in there. So I'm going to go in there and shrink it just a little bit. I'm going to shrink it down so that I can fit 2 rows right in there. Now you'll notice that if I duplicate this diamond, it'll look exactly like the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it and duplicate it next to it. But the duplicate, I'm going to do a little flip on it. Let's do a little 180 on it. So now it starts to look different. So I'm going to select both of these and duplicate them straight above, just like that. And these, I'm going to do a little flip horizontal on those. See, so they're starting to look different. In fact, I'm going to select that one right there and just do another flip on it. We'll say 90 degrees. There we go. And put it right back in position. So now they're starting to look different. So I'm going to go in there and do that to quite a few of them so that I have about, say, 5 or 6 different styles that I can then duplicate. But to save time, we're just going to just use these same 4. So I'm going to go in there and let's grab them, put them up into this area here. And I'm going to duplicate them straight down. I have another bunch right there and come down some more and some more right there. Okay, let's move that over just a little and down. So there. So now I'm going to enlarge the whole batch just so that they fill up this area a little better. About like that. And then I'm going to move them down because they're inside this whole thing here. And then I'm going to grab these 4 down here and duplicate them straight across to form the ones that go down this way. Now it helps to plan this ahead of time so that you know your sizes are going to be just right, but that's okay. We can kind of make believe for the purposes of the demo. So there's our little diamonds. Now they're going to go behind the border. So they're inside that area. Now I can give these guys a little drop shadow inside, increase that distance so that they're inside that place, right inside there. And now we'll add the little sparkles. To the border, I'm going to add a little sparkles. So I got that border. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to lock the transparency so I can throw a couple of tones in there. So I can go in there and maybe take a little white here. I'm going to bring down the hardness on it and just add a little tone right through there like that. It might be a little strong, so I'll just bring down the opacity of the brush and just going to give it a little highlight through there, a little highlight there. And maybe with a little dodging and burning, I'll go in there and just add a couple of little other tones. So I'm just going to go in there and darken that. Let's set this to shadows so we get some nice golden tones right there. And we'll add a little tone right here and maybe a little right here at the edge. Make it a smaller brush and we'll just add a little hard tone right through there, darkening it a little more and like that, right? So now we have some tones in there and the last thing we need is those sparkles. So in a layer right above this whole bunch, I'm going to get a white color and I'm going to get my paintbrush, which I'm going to really soften it up, really soft edge. And I'm going to bring down the size a bit. So right now I got that, right? I'm going to bring the opacity up to about 80, which gives me that. I'm going to go into my brush engine where I'm going to set up a transfer mode. And I'm going to say I want the opacity to fade. And I want it to fade at, say, maybe 75 steps. So I can test that, what that's going to be. Well, it's a little too much. So let's go down here and make it 35. And that looks better. In fact, we'll make it even smaller. We'll make it 25. We know that's going to be perfect. So now I'm going to go and click right here and come up into this direction. Hold on my shift key to constrain it from click to click and click. And there you can see that it's running out of paint when it gets to 25 steps. I'm going to start at the original spot right there. Click again. Come down in this direction in a straight line from the previous point. Hold on my shift key again and click. Now I'm going to go and reduce that distance just a little bit. So I'm going to bring this down to, say, maybe 19. I'm going to start at that same point, click, come in this direction, perpendicular to it, hold down the shift key and click. Click there again, come in this direction, shift, click. I might want to add just a little bit more sprays there. So I'll go into my brush, and this time I'll bring it down to about, say, 12. And I'll click here, shift, click, close this, click here, come over here, shift, click, there, click, there, and click. And for the final touch, I'll just add a much bigger brush and just give it a little touch right there in the center, which gives it that extra little sparkle. Now that is a separate layer, so I can move that into any position that I want. Or if I want, I can hold down my Option key and duplicate that, bring one of these up here, which I can make a little smaller. And I have a second sparkle up at the top. And you can see how simple it was to go in there and create a nice little letter filled with diamonds. And of course, if you take your time and really think it out, you'll have everything fit perfectly and it'll look beautiful.